Smon, there's a moose about this hoose.
Hello, how's it going? Today, we're talking about dwarves. It's about time, really. The Earthen have slept through a lot, but they're going to wake up now, so chill out. But we're going to move on to some trolls stuff afterwards, because otherwise this video would be very short. See what I did there? You ready? Let's go! Uldaman was kind of quiet these days. A lot of the mechagnomes had succumbed to the curse of flesh. Some had turned into gnomes and buggered off. Others just died. It got to the stage where there was only one mechagnome left. She did her best to maintain Uldaman, but being on her own, it kind of fell into disrepair. The curse of flesh started chipping away at her metallic form, and eventually she turned into a gnome. And then she aged, and now she's old, and she's probably going to die soon. This is a nice story, isn't it? It's like the start of a Pixar movie. She knew she didn't have much time left, and she couldn't bear the thought of, upon her demise, the Earthen being abandoned forever in the vault's depths. So she got to work on freeing them. With her dying breath, she activated the Earthen's hibernation chambers. And then she died, obviously. Let's take this moment to pay our respects to that nameless female gnome. Pour one out for one's gnomies. Oh god, that was terrible. Anyway, the Earthen woke up and discovered they'd changed dramatically. The curse of flesh had taken its toll, transforming them into fleshy, bloody Scottish creatures that would come to call themselves dwarves. Have you noticed how dwarves are always Scottish in fantasy? Still groggy from being asleep for so long, they wandered out of Uldaman and found themselves at the surface of the world. They also found themselves drawn to the west, towards some big old mountains. Like the gnomes, they faced savage beasts on their journey, but whereas the gnomes had needed to rely on their ingenuity to overcome these threats, the dwarves could rely on their resilience and natural physical strength. The curse of flesh had affected their memories, but the dwarves still held faint ties to their Titan-forged heritage. Inspired by these recollections, they renamed their mountainous home KHAZMODAN, which means Mountain of Kaz. And if you're wondering, who the bloody hell is Kaz? I guess it's like the cool little nickname they gave to their Titan creator Khaz'goroth. The dwarves also had a natural affinity to stoneworking and mining. They delved into the heart of KHAZMODAN's tallest mountain and crafted an immense forge. They built a proud city around the forge, and they named the city IRONFORGE. This great and mighty nation would stretch deep under the mountains. As the dwarves set out to mine KHAZMODAN's mountains and expand their holdings, they came across gnomes. The people of IRONFORGE were extremely impressed by the gnomes' techno-savvy, and they also sensed a natural kinship with them. Mainly because, you know, Titan forged and stuff. And probably a little bit because they're short. I just made that up. There's a bit of speculation for you. I speculate that the reasons dwarves and gnomes immediately got on with each other is because they're short. The dwarves imparted their knowledge, giving the gnomes mad skills in terms of construction and stoneworking. This helped the gnomes lay the foundation of a wondrous city that would later be called GNOMEREGAN. The gnomes taught the dwarves engineering and science, introducing efficiency and advancements to IRONFORGE. Although both races would keep to themselves over the following centuries, they formed an unbreakable bond, often coming to each other's aid in times of need. And that's it for them for the time being. Off with you. Now troll stuff. Specifically the Gurubashi, who dwelled in the southern reaches of the eastern kingdoms, and they weren't doing so great. After the Sundering, hunting and farming grounds had been lost forever, and there was just constant famine. So these jungle trolls of Stranglethorn Vale turned to the powerful lower spirits who they worshipped, and one such creature answered their call, Hakkar the Soulflayer, the lower of blood. This spirit promised to help the Gurubashi extend their empire across the lower half of the eastern kingdoms, and in return, you know, just a lot of living sacrifices. No big deal. Those who pledged their loyalty to Hakkar became known as the Hakkari. They defeated nearby packs of gnolls and tribes of murlocs, as well as any trolls who opposed Hakkar. Those taken prisoner wished they'd died in battle, as Hakkar would gorge on their blood for years. Under the Hakkari's control, the Gurubashi achieved all they'd hoped. They conquered the lands and even many of the islands that dotted the coasts of the South Seas. The Zandalari observed this, and were pleased again, at first, but they soon realised that Hakkar's bloodlust would never be satisfied. This fiendish god would not only drive the troll race to destruction, but potentially the entire world. So the Zandalari rallied their forces and set sail for the Eastern Kingdoms. They met with Gurubashi trolls who'd secretly rejected Hakkar. They soon learned that the Hakkari priests, known as the Atalai, were attempting to summon the lowest spirit into a living form. This would mean that Hakkar would have access to even more power, and would spell certain doom for the troll race, and that's terrible. So, the Zandalari stormed the Gurubashi capital of ZUL'GURUB. After many battles, they defeated Hakkar and his crazed followers. Despite this victory, the trolls agreed to remain vigilant for any sign of Hakkar's reappearance, as he wasn't truly dead, just banished. A number of Atalai priests had managed to escape during the battles. They settled in the wild marshlands north of the Gurubashi capital, the Swamp of Sorrows. There, they secretly constructed the temple of Atal Hakkar. They continued worshipping Hakkar, practicing grisly rituals and ceremonies. They were hoping, once again, to summon Hakkar into the physical world. These dark magics twisted twisted the surrounding flora and fauna, drawing the attention of the Green Power Ranger, Ysera. So she unleashed her powers on the temple and its inhabitants. This attack buckled the temple's walls and blasted its foundations apart, causing it to sink beneath the land. The terrified Attalai were like, "Oh Jesus!" and ran away, scattered into the marshlands. Ysera then tasked a number of loyal green dragons to keep watch over the ruined temple and ensure it could never again be used to bring such evil into the world. And we're leaving it there! We finally established dwarfs in the Warcraft universe. There will be more dwarf stuff soon to make them a bit more interesting. I always liked the dwarves in the Dragon Age games. Because they spent most of their lives living underground, they're terrified of falling into the sky, and that's hilarious. Also, the Zandalari have finally won a war, even if it was just against other trolls. In the next video, we'll be covering the Shendra La and also the fracturing of Arathor. So if you want to see that, make sure you're subscribed and come back on Tuesday. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, talk to me in the comments, and all that's left to say is, thanks very much for watching, and see ya!